Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. There's been a lot that's come out of the Annecy Festival this year regarding Warner Brothers Discovery and Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, etc. I made a video discussing the Foster Home for Imaginary Friends preschool series and the fate of that show and the details on that. I made a video discussing the Amazing World of Gumball Season 7 and all of the other stuff that was announced at the Annecy Festival, or rather I should say previewed at the festival. And if you guys haven't seen those videos, I'll leave them in the card and description below so you guys can check those out. But the last thing coming out of this festival is the future of Warner Brothers Discovery Animation in general, what the company is going to focus on going forward, and it really seems like it's going to be more adult content going forward than kids content in the animation space. So first of all, this is all coming from Animation on Max, so huge shout out to them for compiling this information on Twitter. The different executives over at Warner Brothers Discovery were discussing the animation space and what they view as the future of it on Max, and Executive Vice President Zuzana Mako says, "We see it in the numbers. I feel like that's the home run in animation, whenever you can get something that can play to both young and older audiences." So they're going to make more animated shows that cater toward young adult audiences, which I feel like is not all that surprising to hear, given that we've seen Adult Swim kind of starting to take over Cartoon Network. It really seems like the animation space in general, because Warner Brothers Discovery, as much as you want to hate on them, they're a huge player in the animation space. They have so many properties at their disposal, and Warner Brothers in general has always been one of the bigger players in the animation world alongside Disney and Nick. And the fact of the matter is, it seems to me like the animation industry in general is kind of transitioning into a new era right now. Like if we look at the past 20 plus years of animation, right? The 2000s, the early to mid 2000s, I would say was a lot of variety in animation. You had your less serious shows, you had some darker shows with some more spooky elements to them, and then all of a sudden in the mid 2000s and into the early 2010s, we kind of transitioned into an era where really the stars of the animation space were action series. Like action series were left and right in the animation world, especially on Cartoon Network. You had shows like Ben 10, Symbiotic Titan, Generator Rex, so on and so on. Animation was action. Action was animation. The two were synonymous at the time. Then all of a sudden we kind of transitioned out of that era in like 2014, 2015 and started to see a lot of comedies take over the animation space, and that was really the focal point of that era. And I feel like right now what's happening is we're transitioning out of that comedy oriented era and we're moving into an era of animation that is much more geared towards older audiences, like young adults and even some cases adults. It's not to say that these shows can't also appeal to younger audiences, because they are going to appeal to both young adults, and younger audiences as well. It's going to appeal to everybody no matter what your age is, just like these shows in the 2000s did to a degree. It just seems like that's the way the industry is going. It just seems like that's where we're headed. And even Michael Olerlin says, he's quoted as saying, "We think there's more to do in dramas and prestige animation," in reference to the news that Warner Brothers Discovery plans to venture into more genres for adult animation, such as dramas, sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, mystery, and young adult content. And yeah, like I said, it really seems to me that that's the way the industry is headed. I mean, for example, another thing that was talked about at this festival is Adventure Time Fiona and Cake. They're saying how it's explicitly geared towards young adults, for teens and people who are in their 20s. And I feel like Adventure Time in general, it was geared towards older audiences, but now they're taking that even a step further with Fiona and Cake. They're quoted as saying, this is again from Zuzana Makos, she's quoted as saying, "Tonally, it's very much Adventure Time, but Fiona's older, she's in the workforce, it's more adult, so I think it's going to bring in new fans." So yeah, it really seems to me that the animation space in general, this is the direction they're moving in, because in all honesty, if one brand in the animation space, one of the bigger, more prominent brands, is doing this, the other brands are going to follow. And what I mean by this is, for example, if Warner Brothers Discovery starts to do this, they start to create more young adult animated content, and it is successful, then Disney and Nick are going to start to do the same thing as well. And the reason I say that is because success pays the industries forward. If all of a sudden Warner Brothers Discovery is producing all of these young adult series with, yes, younger elements in them for younger viewers to enjoy, but even some more mature elements in them for even, older audiences to enjoy, then they see success in that, then Nick and Disney are obviously going to want to replicate that in their own way. Like, for example, right now, if we look at a show like Unicorn Warriors Eternal, episode 8 has premiered at the time of this recording. It is wildly successful. We see My Adventures with Superman coming out soon. That show seems to have a lot of appeal towards it. It seems like a lot of people are looking forward to that series. So if we continue down this path where we have all these series that are being catered towards young adults and even older audiences as well, then I feel like the industry is just going to start to replicate that, and they're going to start to copy what Warner Brothers Discovery is doing, and that's where the industry is going forward, and that's what's going to happen to it. And in all honesty, I feel mixed about it, if I'm being honest. And the reason I feel mixed is because, while yes, I think that it's great that finally American animation is realizing that, hey, older people do watch animation. It's not just little kids, because for a while now, for more than the past decade, it's pretty much been that animation's being exclusively targeted towards younger kids. It's being targeted towards kids instead of everybody. I mean, I feel like that's why anime in general has kind of skyrocketed in popularity over the past decade, because in Japan, most animes are being targeted towards older audiences, and they're making their way into Western audiences, because what are Western animation companies doing? They're prioritizing making comedies for younger audiences. So there's kind of the lack of more serious animated content, so that's where all these animes come into play. Not to say that they aren't good. I enjoy my good anime every so often, such as My Hero Academia. Great show, by the way, if you guys haven't checked that out. What I'm trying to get at is, I feel like now we're starting to finally catch up. I feel like the Western animation studios are like, okay, people want more serious animated content. That's why all these Japanese animes are doing well. That's why all these shows coming out of foreign countries are doing well, because they're catering to these audiences when we're not. So now Warner Brothers Discovery is doing that. I'm sure Disney's going to start doing that as well, and same thing with Nick, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, like I said, success drives the industry forward. If these shows are successful, more of them will come, and this is the new era of animation. I feel like the 2020s, at least like the mid 2020s to probably the early 2030s, they're going to be defined, the era of animation we're in is going to be defined by these young adult animated series, and we'll see what happens from there on out, because once one era starts, there's always another one that's going to take over after that. But like I said, I feel like we're leaving the comedy oriented era and we're entering the young adult animated era, and we'll see where it goes from there. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. Are you guys excited to see that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to be prioritizing young adult animated content going forward, or are you a bit disappointed because you don't want to see them go down that path, down that direction? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.